All right, we're gonna be going over the most controversial Blue Lock hot takes I've ever seen. From slandering your favorite characters, takes on recent events in the story, or just flat out predictions, there is so many opinions out there, so from over 100 submissions, I've picked some of the best and most controversial ones. Of course, we'll be rating these takes as well, from ice cold, everyone can agree with you, to insanely hot, nobody agrees with you, you've burnt down the kitchen. However, we're going over the most controversial ones, which means that there might not even be a lot of takes that you agree with. Like our first take, mid-sagi is a last goal merchant meant for midfielder. Now straight up, this is a crazy statement first of all, and to recap Kama's defense, they say he's not a striker, he only gets praised because he's the main character and needs Corona and Bachara to score. Yet people complain about barou needing a system. I told y'all these takes were about to be crazy, and the thing is, there are quite a few people that can agree with this. There is a lot of isagi haters out there. I mean, just look at this take. This is some 50 cent levels of hating, reverse flash levels of hating. To really break it down though, Isagi is still scoring a lot of goals throughout the NEL, and now in the U20 World Cup, maybe it's true he scores the last goal all the time, but rarely is it due to plot. We saw Isagi was the one pushing Nigeria and evolving for that last goal, and he understood Ness's awakening the fastest for the PXG last goal. Even Kaiser acknowledged it. The whole system debate, you can literally argue that point for every single character in the manga. I agree, he doesn't have as high of a scoring capability as others like Rin, Shido, or Barou, but that is literally the whole point of his character. He's a talented learner who isn't gifted with these insane weapons, yet he still makes it work and he still scores goals. But in terms of needing other players, it's an 11 versus 11 sport. Yeah, this deserves a pretty hot rating. You can make the argument that he fits more of a midfielder, which is kind of true, but everything else is just downplaying Isagi. I just know there are some people out there that agree with this though, which is why I'm not giving it a burning hot rating. Now, our next hot take is covering a character we're gonna see very, very soon. This one says Loki's lack of experience will be his downfall. When I was going through the 100 takes, I saw a lot of them kind of glaze Loki, so this one definitely stuck out. Ace says his only feats were in regard to his speed. No high IQ plays, he's relying on Charles to beat Noel Noah instead of working on himself. Now honestly, as much as this take is a prediction because we haven't really seen him much, this is something that makes a lot of sense. Loki is hyped up as the big bad rival, so eventually Blue Lock, or Isagi specifically, is going to have to overcome it, like he always does. His downfall could be his lack of IQ, or something like a restriction on Godspeed, which of course Blue Lock will target if that's the case. The thing is, with his character though, it's all about how unfair Godspeed is. Rin was able to read him in the World 5 game, yet he just blasts on past him. Even Kaiser was calling him an unfair cheat code, and it took an Isagi and Kaiser team up to stop him, which he wasn't even actively going for goals, he was passing to Rin, so he didn't really technically get stopped. And also, I wouldn't necessarily say it's experience he lacks because he's already playing pro and whatnot compared to the Blue Lockers. The point is, even if he lacks in IQ and Isagi takes advantage of that, Godspeed compensates for that by like tenfold. So I don't think it will be too big of a problem for this game, maybe later on if they rematch them in the finals. So for this take, it could happen, but it's very uncommon right now, so we'll give this a hot rating. I did like this very much though. For these takes, I'm trying to cover a little bit of this and a little bit of that. We covered Isagi, we covered Loki. The next take is on the Nigeria game, which says it is the worst game we've ever seen. Y'all, the worst game we've seen is a very strong statement, but for their defense, they said it was a very boring game because Blue Lock was always going to win. Nigeria didn't have any good players and no pressure unlike the other games. They also gave examples of other games, but to be honest, obviously what you find good is gonna be subjective or based on your opinion. If you prioritize like very cool moments, you're gonna like the NEL matches. If you like unexpected things or plot twists, second selection is probably your favorite. For the Nigeria game, it focused a lot on writing and character development. So this was a game to show how strong Blue Lock is. And also the writing for the Nigeria characters, with them being family, relying on Onazi because it came from a good heart, to realizing that they need to change, and that was amazing writing. There's kind of levels to this Nigeria game though, because it gets outside of the Blue Lock manga itself. During the game, this was the most amount of people I've seen take a break from the manga or didn't find it interesting. Every single week that I covered it, there was always someone calling it boring. And I mean, I've been covering the manga for a while now, and there's a lot of outside factors too. Summer ended, school starting, a content creator stopped covering it, some break weeks were happening throughout it too. So I think the whole culmination of that made it seem a lot more boring than it was. In general though, this was definitely not the worst game. The third selection, I would argue, wasn't nearly as good. Ryo's third selection match is probably the worst, and the second selection at 2v2 was like 5 chapters long. You could say that the Nigeria game was boring. I think a lot of people could agree with that. Even I was like wanting the game to end so we can see the other matches, but calling it the worst is definitely a pretty hot take. Okay, we're moving on to takes for character rankings or scaling, and trust me, later in this video, y'all are gonna see some insanely controversial takes when it comes to the rankings. Starting it off, we got Kunigami would perform better and score more goals than Shido if he was given the same treatment. This comes from my boy Lemons, and he basically says if Kunigami had his own squad, like Shido having Karasu and Zantetsu, he would have scored more and be above Shido. Now, these are the takes that are controversial because now we're pitting the Kunigami fans versus the Shido fans, and for my opinion on it, I kind of do see it. In terms of scoring goals, Shido had a 4 in the NEL and Kunigami had 2, but one was from an assist and the other one was all on his own skill, catching Isagi's bad shot. So the question is, could he have scored 2 to 3 more goals if he had more help? If he had Corona or other blue lockers, I think he 100% would have tied Shido in getting 4 goals, and it's a maybe on whether he would have outscored him. The thing is, Bastard itself just had so many people fighting for the goal. You got Kaiser griefing Isagi, Isagi fighting back, Yukimiya is blind. It was just straight madness. But according to your take, this is kind of a fairy dust scenario where Isagi, Corona, and others were helping him out in a system. So for your take specifically, under those certain specific scenarios where he is getting backed up, I could definitely see it happening. Kunigami was emo though and only wanted to work alone, so it isn't realistic that he would team up with others. Bro even assisted Isagi once and said we're done. I honestly do wish that Kunigami and Shido's beef was explored more, or at least a little bit closer. Like, he got eliminated by him and still ended up 5 places underneath him, which is crazy. Shido narratively though is the scarier striker, arguably the best goal scorer, even though he only had a 4 in the NEL, and that's what we're going off of. So I know a lot of people are gonna be talking about this take, so I'm gonna give it a very hot rating. Now, this is a take for the top 5 ranking in Blue Lock. Reverb says Kira will be top 5 when he returns. Be for real, dog. I got one question. What are Kira fans smoking? I genuinely don't even know at this point. The defense says he's the only one with the anti-Blue Lock mentality. There are other no-ego players that do good, and him and Nagi are gonna team up. Honestly, I've been seeing so much Kira glaze recently, so I guess this addresses the whole thing. For your defense, it's both right and wrong. There are other players like Lorenzo who isn't striving to become the best and still do good, but he's a new Gen 11. He's already skilled. Just because Kira got no ego like Lorenzo, he ain't playing like him. He isn't Lorenzo. That analogy is the same thing as me saying, because I think like Tom Holland, I am Tom Holland. It doesn't make any sense. Kira got 0 feats, and Blue Lock's mentality is just all about using your ego to become the #1 or best player. Kira just cares about crushing Blue Lock and Isagi. The evidence is all there for the Blue Lock mentality working as well. Nigeria got destroyed because they just wanted to stay together. Nagi had no ego and was only motivated to go against Isagi, like a certain someone, and still got eliminated. He only came back when he wanted to become the best. Not to mention a top 5 ranking, the top 5 players. We don't even know if Bro is surviving Red Key. And even if he does, I don't think he's making the top 5. It's way too stacked. You have Isagi, Barou, Bachira, Rin, Shido. Literally those 5 players, he's never surpassing them. So yeah, you burnt down the kitchen dog, a burning hot rating for this take. I do know some Kira Glazers will agree with you. Let's talk a little bit about the new Gen 11. There was so many takes for them this time around. It also helps that there was a new Gen 11 chapter. And starting it off with the newly introduced character, OP Benny says Hugo is better than Lorenzo. And for his defense, there's a lot here, but it's because of him being a part of the France team and being acknowledged by Loki. Now, honestly, it is way too early to start scaling any anyone to Hiryo. We haven't even seen bro play, but I know a lot of people will want to talk about it anyways. It was the exact same thing for Kaiser when he first got introduced. When you do a new Gen 11 ranking, you kind of have to separate it, where you have a ranking based on feats that we've seen, and then a ranking based on narrative, because both are completely different rankings. In terms of narrative, you could say he has a better game reading skills to call Isagi totally unsuitable, and then Isagi be Ubers. But in terms of feats, of course, Lorenzo slams. Hiryo doesn't even have feats. I'm honestly a little confused to take on this take, so I'm gonna put some blind faith in our boy Lorenzo and disagree with you. I'm gonna say this is a hot take. I am curious to know where you guys would rank Hiryo in the new Gen 11 rankings, just based off the narrative, I guess. Let me know in the comments down below while we move on to the next take, which is Kaiser is the worst new Gen 11. I told y'all these takes were gonna be controversial. Now, I originally thought this was rage bait looking at it, but they defended their case saying Isagi and Rin surpassed Kaiser and haven't surpassed Sai. Lorenzo has same abilities, and Bunny is a starter for Barch's first team. Like I said, I thought this was rage bait, but then they started defending it with whatever this was. The only thing right in this defense is that Bunny is a starter. Lorenzo is a completely different position with different weapons compared to Kaiser, and the Isagi and Rin thing is a complete other story. Because again, it goes down to narrative and feats. Kaiser has a better feats than Sai, but Isagi and him had to team up to stop Rin, who's still trying to surpass Sai, so narratively, Sai is better. But y'all, it's also an 11 versus 11 match. I think a lot of people put too much narrative importance on that Isagi and Kaiser team up. Isagi and Kaiser teaming up is not the same thing as Naruto and Sasuke teaming up because they weren't strong enough. It's naturally just played with teammates. Even without that explanation, narratively, Lorenzo is weaker than Kaiser, and feats-wise, Sai is weaker than Kaiser. Kaiser is not the weakest no matter what, so you're burning down the kitchen. We're giving you an insanely hot take. For our next take is the love him or hate him character. Jacko Man says post Baratsuta Nagi will be top 3. And his explanations are that he's been equal strength to Barou, he's Kanashiro's favorite, and his motivation and creativity were lacking, which will be fixed through side B. Now, I think this is a take that we can all get behind. Whether you love him or hate him, Nagi coming back is going to be a very strong character. You're also completely right with him being Kanashiro's favorite. I mean, he got a whole side selection for him to come back in the manga somehow, and now he's remotivated. We've already seen that. So I think this take I can agree with. It probably will just take a lot of time, like towards the end of the World Cup, for it to happen. But if you said top 5, oh yeah, he's definitely up there then. So we'll give this a cold rating. It's a good take. Next is a very underrated character, and that is Atoya deserves his top 10 spot. And this take is coming from the English voice actor of Atoya himself, which is super cool. I hope you're watching, my friend. Respect and a round of applause to your voice acting. But in general, I agree with you. I do think Atoya deserves his top 10, especially with the last few games. He was performing well. Every point you made makes sense. The question is he a top 10 player right now? I just can't see him being above the 10 mark. There are so many other characters, Nagi coming back soon, players underneath him like Gagamaru and Karasu, who you can argue after their evolutions are probably a bit better. I think it's also just Atoya's kit and utility. Like, Karasu is damn near a guaranteed starter in BLUELOCK, whereas Atoya is a little bit more situational or niche, which is why it's gonna be harder for him to play during the U20 World Cup. So for this take, I'm gonna give it mild. I think NEL specifically, which is what you're referring to, he 100% deserved it. And we're finally here at our last take. To end things off, I want to cover a take about the upcoming France match, since that is what everyone is excited for. By God Emperor Chu, they say Japan will put up a good fight or even beat France. Now y'all can see why I saved this take for last. For their explanation, they said this BLUELOCK team has played against new gens and pros with success. Once they fully awaken, it's gonna be giving Loki a run for his money. It'll be a close game and go to penalties. Now, first of all, penalty shootouts aren't allowed in the group stage, so if it happened, that would be way later on during the knockouts. But let's try and dissect the other parts of this take. I do agree that BLUELOCK has experience facing against new Gen 11s. You could say Rin and Isagi even beat Kaiser at times, but no doubt Loki is the best one we've seen so far, and by quite a large margin. On top of that, France has Hiryo now, and Charles. When this video comes out, Hugo's position isn't revealed yet, but still, 2 new Gen 11s on one team is diabolical. It's a big threat. This time around, we're going to be getting a full tryharding Loki, which we've never seen before, so that's going to be pretty hard to beat. I also think story-wise, it doesn't make any sense for Japan to beat them here. They kind of need to lose this game because Loki is being treated as the big bad final boss. And if they win against him here, I think that'll really dissolve his character. BLUELOCK won't win this match, but they'll probably take some wins on the pitch, like Isagi out-reading Loki at times, or smack-talking back just like he did during the PXG game. Even though Isagi will do that, he probably has it coming for him though. Loki is coming with the belt. But I just don't see a world where they can win even with all of our biggest threats. As for a good fight though, 100% yeah, I think we're gonna have a good fight against France. I would argue that it would be kind of bad if Japan got blown out by France. They've shown from the Nigeria game that they are one of the top teams. BLUELOCK has evolved very greatly, and Rin and Isagi specifically are very close to that lower new gen level. I've seen so many people say the BLUELOCKers are about to get violated. I do think it'll be a bad loss, but not without a fight. I think we'll see 2 to 3 goals from our side, but still lose. Shido will most likely score, Rin will most likely score. I don't think Isagi will score, but I think we'll get some goals. So that's my hot take on the whole Japan loses like 8-0 theory. But in general, this take is pretty high. I mean, I disagree with you. I don't think Japan has a chance of winning, but a good fight, yeah, I could definitely see that. And that wraps up the most controversial BLUELOCK hot takes. Make sure to leave any thoughts you have down below, whether you agree or disagree with the takes or even my takes on it. Thank you for everyone who submitted hot takes. I can only fit so many in the video, but for the rest, I'll be covering them on stream, so don't worry if they didn't get covered. If you made it to the end though, thank you so much for watching as always. YouTube really thinks you like this video right here, so be sure to check that one out too. I love y'all so much, and I'll see y'all in the next one.